The Dravex were ruthless conquerors who saw other intelligent species as resources to be exploited. Their massive warships had appeared without warning in Lumerian space, broadcasting a simple message: surrender or die. When the Lumerian Council attempted to negotiate, the Dravex opened fire, destroying the capital city and killing millions. Zira had been off-world when the attack happened, leading a small science vessel with a crew of 20. She received the distress call too late to do anything but watch helplessly as her civilization fell. Now they were refugees with dwindling supplies and a damaged engine that would soon fail completely. Commander Vela approached and stood beside her captain. Her purple skin was a shade darker than Xeris, and her 4 eyes showed the same worry they all felt. "The scans show a habitable system ahead," she said softly, "but it is occupied." Zira turned to face her second in command. "What species?" Vela hesitated before answering. "Humans," the word hung in the air between them. "Humans. The most feared species in the known galaxy. Not because they were especially cruel or aggressive, but because they were survivors from a death world, a planet so hostile that most spacefaring species could not even visit its surface without protective gear. Humans had evolved under crushing gravity through extreme temperature variations and alongside predators that would terrify any rational being. But it was not just their physical abilities that made humans dangerous, it was their minds. They were unpredictable, creative, and possessed a determination that bordered on insanity. When humans decided to do something, they simply did not give up. Even the Dravex avoided human space. "We have no choice," Zira said. "Finally, our engine will fail within days and our supplies are nearly gone. We must risk contact." Vela nodded, though her expression showed doubt. "I will prepare the crew." 3 days later, their ship limped into the outer reaches of the human system. They had broadcast messages of peace explaining their refugee status, but had received no response. Zira feared the humans were simply waiting to destroy them as trespassers. When a communication finally came through, Lumerian vessel, "This is Earth. Defense Station Horizon, Commander Amy Foster speaking. We have received your distress call and are dispatching a support ship to your location. Please maintain position." Zira exchanged looks with Vela. The human voice sounded calm, almost friendly, not at all what they expected from Deathworlders. "Thank you, Commander. This is Captain Zira of the Lumerian science vessel, Starbright. We are grateful for any assistance." The support ship arrived within hours, a sleek vessel that moved with surprising speed for its size. When it docked with their damaged craft, the airlock cycled open, revealing 3 humans, 2 females and 1 male, all wearing blue uniforms with patches that showed symbols Zira did not recognize. The lead human stepped forward. She was shorter than the Lumerians, with dark skin and curly black hair pulled back from her face. Her eyes were a warm brown, and her expression was open and professional. "Captain Zira, I am Dr. Tanya Wilson, Chief Medical Officer from the Earth. Defense Station Horizon," she said, extending a hand in what Zira recognized as a human greeting gesture. "These are my colleagues, Nurse Linda Bell and Engineer Steve Roberts. We are here to assess your situation and provide immediate aid." Zira carefully took the human's hand, surprised by how warm it felt through her gloves. "Thank you, Doctor. Our engines are failing and we have several crew members who require medical attention." Dr. Wilson nodded efficiently. "We brought supplies and can stabilize your ship enough to bring it to the station. Our medical facilities there are better equipped to help your people." The humans worked with surprising speed and competence. The engineer immediately went to work on their failing engines while the medical humans tended to the injured Lumerians. Zira watched in amazement as Dr. Wilson accurately diagnosed conditions she should have had no knowledge of. "How do you know so much about Lumerian physiology?" Zira asked, as the doctor treated a crew member. With a severe radiation burn, Dr. Wilson smiled as she applied a healing gel to the injured alien. "We make it our business to learn about all spacefaring species," she explained. "Some call it paranoia. We call it preparation." The gel began to glow, slightly as it worked. "Lumerian healing is fascinating. Your cellular regeneration rate is nearly twice that of humans when properly stimulated." Within hours, the humans had stabilized their ship and treated the most serious injuries. Engineer Roberts, had managed to coax their dying engine back to 30% functionality enough to make it to the human station. As they approached Earth Defense Station, Horizon Zero and her crew crowded around viewing ports to see their first human structure. Up close, the station was massive, a spinning wheel-like construction with numerous docking arms extending outward. Ships of various designs moved around it, some Zero recognized as belonging to other alien species. The humans have trade agreements, with the Voltar and the Mizari Vela observed with surprise. Those species rarely venture beyond their own territories. It seems the humans are more connected than we realized. Zero replied, once docked. They were greeted by Commander Amy Foster, a tall, human female with short blonde hair and clear blue eyes. She wore a crisp gray uniform with more symbols, and welcomed them formally to the station Captain Zero on behalf of the Earth Defense Alliance. "I welcome you and your crew to Horizon Station," she said. "We have prepared quarters for your people and our medical team is standing by for those who need additional treatment." Zero bowed slightly in the Lumerian gesture of respect. "Commander Foster, we are grateful for your assistance. Our situation is desperate." "Let us talk in my office," the human suggested, gesturing for Zero to follow. The commander's office was simple but comfortable, with a large viewing window that looked out on the blue and green planet below Earth. The human homeworld looked beautiful. But Zero knew its beauty concealed deadly conditions crushing gravity. Extreme weather, unpredictable tectonic activity, and countless organisms evolved to kill. "Please sit," Commander Foster said, indicating a chair adjusted for Lumerian physiology, another surprising accommodation. "Now tell me about what happened to your world." Zero recounted the Dravex attack, explaining how her peaceful species had been overwhelmed. The human commander listened intently, occasionally asking clarifying questions. When Zero finished, Foster leaned back in her chair, her expression grave. "The Dravex Empire," she said thoughtfully. "We've had encounters with their scout ships near our borders. They withdraw when challenged, but we've been monitoring their expansion. For them to openly attack an established civilization like yours marks a significant escalation." "You know of them?" Zero asked, surprised. Foster nodded. "We make it our business to know potential threats. The Dravex have a reputation for brutality, but until now they've focused on uninhabited resource-rich worlds or primitive pre-spaceflight civilizations." She tapped a control on her desk, bringing up a holographic display of the galaxy highlighting Dravex territory, which was alarmingly large. "What will happen to my people now?" Zero asked quietly. "Will you allow us to stay?" Foster studied her for a moment. "Earth has refugee protocols for situations like yours. You and your crew will be granted temporary asylum while our diplomatic corps contacts any Lumerian colonies that escape the attack. We can arrange relocation if you wish." Zero felt her heart sink. "We had few colonies, mostly research outposts. I fear most of my species may be enslaved or worse." The human commander's expression hardened slightly at this. "Then we have another option to discuss." She said, "The Earth Defense Alliance does not recognize the legitimacy of empires built on conquest and slavery. We have been gathering information on the Dravex for some time. Your testimony and sensor data from the attack would be valuable." Zero felt a flicker of hope. "What are you suggesting?" Commander Foster smiled, but it was not a comforting expression. There was something predatory in it, something that reminded Zero that humans evolved as pursuit predators. "I'm suggesting, Captain Zero, that the Dravex have made a serious error in judgment. They believe that because your species is peaceful, you are therefore weak and easily conquered, and that is an error." Zero asked. Foster leaned forward, her blue eyes intense. "The error is assuming that peaceful means defenseless or alone. The error is not considering who your friends might be. The error is believing that conquering worlds comes without consequences." Zero suddenly understood what the human was implying. "You would help us fight the Dravex, not immediately," Foster clarified. "First we gather intelligence, build alliances, secure resources. But yes, Captain, the Earth Defense Alliance was formed specifically to oppose entities like the Dravex Empire. We believe all sentient species have the right to self-determination. She paused, studying Zira's reaction. And we humans have a particular dislike for bullies. Later that day, Zira was introduced to more humans, including Diane Taylor, a diplomatic officer who would help integrate the Lumerian refugees into station life and coordinate their legal status. Catherine Miller, a security chief who interviewed Zira about Dravex weapons and tactics, and Helen Brooks, a cultural specialist, who would help the Lumerians adjust to living among humans. As Zira settled her crew into their temporary quarters, she found herself reevaluating everything she thought she knew about humans. They were not the savage Deathworlders of legend, but neither were they soft. Their kindness did not stem from weakness, but from strength. They could afford to be generous because they were capable of being terrible when necessary. She watched through a viewing port as a human military vessel departed the station, its sleek design clearly built for speed and stealth. Another followed, then another. She realized they were sending ships toward Dravex space, not to attack, not yet, but to watch, to gather information, to prepare. For the first time since witnessing the fall of her world, Zira felt something more than despair. The humans were planning something, and the Dravex Empire had no idea what was coming for them. Now I'll create part 2. 2 months passed on Horizon Station Zira, and her crew had adjusted to life among humans, learning their customs and strange ways. The humans had been more accommodating than expected, modifying living quarters to suit Lumerian biology and providing cultural orientation sessions. Each day more, Lumerian refugees arrived as human ships located and rescued survivors from research outposts and colonies. Zira sat in a meeting room with Commander Foster and several other human officers. The wall displayed a holographic map showing Dravex territory and recent fleet movements. "We have confirmed the Dravex have established a base on your homeworld," said Maria Chen, a human intelligence officer with short black hair and serious eyes. "They are systematically stripping the planet of resources and have put the remaining population to work in labor camps." Zira felt her heart constrict with grief. The image of her beautiful world being torn apart was almost too much to bear. "What about the other Lumerians? Have you found more survivors?" "Commander," Foster nodded. "We have located 8 small colonies and research stations so far. Approximately 12,000 of your people have been evacuated to safe locations. The Dravex seem unaware of our rescue operations." This was better news than Zira had hoped for, though still a tiny fraction of the original Lumerian population. At least some had escaped the Dravex. Catherine Wong, a tactical officer, tapped controls on the table, bringing up new images. "These are the Dravex fleet formations near your homeworld. They have 26 warships in the system and another 40 spread throughout their territory. Formidable, but not unbeatable. Unbeatable." Zira echoed. "You cannot seriously be planning to challenge the entire Dravex Empire." Foster exchanged glances with her officers before responding. "Not alone, no. But we have been busy. Captain Zira." The holographic display changed, showing new information. Diplomatic agreements between humans and other species, fleet positions, supply lines, and strategic locations. The Dravex conquest of Lumeria was observed by many species. Foster explained. "Most were too afraid to intervene, but they are not blind. They see the pattern and know they could be next. The humans have formed an alliance." "The alliance of," Free World's Maria Chen added, 8 spacefaring species have joined us, including the Voltar, the Mizari, and even the Solarians. They all recognize the threat." The Dravex pose. Zira was stunned. The Voltar were notorious isolationists, and the Solarians had always considered themselves superior to other species. That these civilizations would ally with humans seemed impossible, and yet the evidence was on the display before her. "The first phase of our response begins tomorrow," Foster said. "Every refugee we rescue weakens the Dravex workforce and demonstrates their inability to maintain control. Every trading ship that avoids their territory damages their economy. And now we move to more direct action." Catherine Wong highlighted several points on the map. "These 6 locations are Dravex supply depots. We will conduct simultaneous raids to disrupt their logistics. Then we begin targeted strikes against isolated Dravex ships. The goal is to force them to consolidate their forces, making them abandon outer territories, but you still cannot hope to defeat their main fleet. Zira protested, not in direct confrontation, no. Foster agreed, but humans did not evolve to fight fair, Captain. We evolved to win. She smiled, that predatory smile again. Have some advantages that Dravex do not expect later. Zira walked through the station with Helen Brooks, the cultural specialist. She had grown to like this human with her thoughtful questions and genuine interest in Lumerian culture. I still do not understand why your people would risk so much for mine, Zira admitted. They had stopped at a viewing area that overlooked Earth. The blue planet rotated slowly, its surface partly obscured by swirling white clouds. Helen considered the question there. Our practical reasons, of course, she said. The Dravex would eventually threaten Earth if left unchecked, but that's not the whole story. What then? Helen gestured to the planet below. Look at Earth, it appears peaceful from here. Beautiful even, but our world shaped us through constant challenge. Our history is filled with conflict and cooperation, survival against overwhelming odds. We understand what it means to face extinction. She turned to Zira. When humans were still confined to Earth, we nearly destroyed ourselves multiple times through war, environmental damage, and short-sightedness. We came to the stars carrying those lessons. We promised ourselves we would be better. Is that why humans help others? Moral obligation. Helen smiled partly, but also because we know something the Dravex do not. Power isn't about conquest. It's about connections, cooperation between different minds and perspectives. The Dravex believe in domination. We believe in alliance. They see other species as resources. We see them as potential friends with unique gifts and perspectives. The Dravex model is ultimately self-limiting. Ours allows for endless growth and adaptation. Zira considered this, wondering if it was true or simply what the humans wanted to believe. The next day, Zira was invited to observe the command center as the first coordinated strikes against Dravex outposts began. The large room was filled with humans at various stations, monitoring communications, sensor data, and tactical displays. Commander Foster sat in a central position, calmly issuing orders. Zira watched in fascination as human ships coordinated with vessels from other species. The Alliance forces moved with precision, striking 6 Dravex supply depots simultaneously. Communication was maintained through a system of quantum-entangled relays that the Dravex could not intercept or jam. The raids were largely successful. 5 of the 6 targets were destroyed or captured with minimal Alliance casualties. The 6th resulted in a prolonged engagement when unexpected Dravex reinforcements arrived. Strike Team 6 is outnumbered, reported a communications officer. They request immediate assistance. Foster studied the tactical display. All nearby units are engaged. She noted, any suggestions? A young human female with red hair spoke up. Lieutenant Rebecca Young, Tactical Analysis. Team 6 location is near the Corvallis Nebula. The radiation interferes with Dravex targeting systems. If the strike team can reach it, they might evade pursuit. Foster nodded. Lieutenant Young, take charge of this situation. Coordinate with Team 6 and get them to that nebula. The young lieutenant moved quickly, establishing communication with the embattled ships and developing an escape route, while Zira watched the humans worked with remarkable efficiency, adapting to changing circumstances without panic or confusion. Throughout the following weeks, the Alliance forces conducted dozens of similar operations. Each strike was designed to strain Dravex resources, force them to relocate ships, and create confusion. As predicted, the Dravex began consolidating their forces, abandoning outer territories to protect core worlds. Zira found herself increasingly involved in these operations. Her knowledge of Lumerian space and Dravex behavior patterns proved valuable. The humans treated her as an equal, seeking her input and respecting her decisions, a far cry from the savage Deathworlders of legend. One evening, Zira found Commander Foster in the station's arboretum, a large chamber filled with plants from Earth and other worlds. The commander sat on a bench near a small stream, looking uncharacteristically tired. May I join you? Zira asked. Foster gestured to the space beside her. Please, the latest reports just came in, she said after a moment. The Dravex have abandoned 3 more systems, including the Talaris mining colony. That makes 11 territories liberated in the past month. This is good news, Zira observed. But something in the commander's expression concerned her. What troubles you? Foster sighed. Our intelligence indicates the Dravex Emperor has taken personal interest in our activities. He has ordered his main battle fleet to assemble. Our raids have been successful, but we may have forced their hand sooner than intended. Will this endanger the Alliance? Foster looked at Zira with weary eyes. War always brings danger, Captain. But we have planned for this. The Dravex believe they are responding to our provocation. In reality, they are doing exactly what we wanted. The next morning, Zira was summoned to a special briefing. Foster and her senior staff were present, along with representatives from each Alliance species. The atmosphere was tense but determined. The Dravex main fleet has mobilized, Foster announced. They plan to strike Earth directly, believing that eliminating the perceived leaders of the Alliance will cause it to collapse. Their intelligence is flawed. Maria Chen activated the holographic display, showing the movement of the Dravex Armada. 87 warships are converging here. She indicated a point in space near the Sol system. They expect to catch us unprepared. And are we prepared? Zira asked. Foster smiled. That predatory expression again. They expect us to defend Earth, so we won't be there. The display changed, showing new fleet positions. While the Dravex concentrate on striking Earth, we will attack here. Foster pointed to a planet glowing red in the display, the Dravex throne world. With the main fleet absent, it will be protected by only 20 ships. The Voltar representative, a tall insectoid, being clicked its mandibles in approval, the head of the snake. Exactly, Foster nodded. We have confirmed the Emperor remains on the throne world, believing it impregnable. The Dravex hierarchy is absolute. Remove the Emperor, and their command structure will fracture. Zira stared at the display, comprehension dawning. You never intended to defeat their entire fleet. You plan to remove their leadership. Foster nodded. It's a human approach to warfare. Target the command structure, not the army. We call it cutting off the head of the snake. The Dravex evolved from pack hunters. They follow the strongest leader. Without the Emperor, they will turn on each other, but the attack on the throne world will still be dangerous. Zira pointed out, 20 warships is a formidable defense. True, Foster agreed, which is why we needed the Dravex to commit their main fleet elsewhere. We could not defeat 100 ships, but we can defeat 20, especially with our special weapon. She looked at Zira with an expression the Lumerian could not interpret. Captain, how would you like to help liberate your homeworld later? Zira learned what Foster meant. The humans had developed a new technology based partly on Lumerian science, a device that could temporarily disrupt the unique energy fields that powered Dravex weapons and shields. But it required someone intimately familiar with both Lumerian science and Dravex technology to calibrate it properly. Zira was one of the few who qualified as the Alliance fleet prepared for the dual operations. Zira worked with human engineers to perfect the disruption device. The humans called it Project Blackout, and if it worked, it would give them a critical advantage in the coming battle. The Alliance fleet was smaller than the Dravex Armada, but comprised ships from all 8 member species, each contributing their unique technologies and combat styles. The Voltar provided stealth field generators, the Mazari contributed their advanced sensor arrays, and the humans, their determination, their adaptability, and their capacity to coordinate diverse forces into a unified whole. As the final preparations were made, Zira found herself on the bridge of the Earth Defense Force's flagship, Intrepid, commanded by Admiral Lauren Scott, a veteran human officer with steel-gray hair and calculating eyes. The Dravex fleet is 6 hours from Earth orbit, reported Lieutenant Young. They still show no awareness of our true target. Good, Admiral Scott nodded. Maintain communication blackout. All ships are to proceed to jump points at scheduled times. She turned to Zira. Are you ready? Captain Zira looked down at the small device she held, the culmination of weeks of work. It seemed too small to change the course of a war, and yet I am ready, Admiral. Though I still wish I could accompany you to Lumaria. Scott placed a hand briefly on Zira's shoulder. Your place is with the strike force at the Dravex throne world. Your knowledge in this device will make the difference between success and failure. As Zira prepared to transfer to the strike force vessel, she realized how far she had come from the terrified refugee who had first encountered humans. She had learned that beneath their sometimes alarming directness was a species of remarkable compassion and ingenuity. They were indeed dangerous, but not in the way she'd feared. They were dangerous because they refused to accept defeat, because they believed in fighting for others as fiercely as for themselves, and now she would join them in battle. Not because she had become like them, but because they had helped her find strength she never knew she possessed. The kind of strength that came not from violence but from the determination to protect what mattered. Most importantly, they had given her something she thought lost forever. Hope now. I'll create Part 3. The Alliance strike force moved silently through hyperspace toward the Dravex throne world. 30 ships from 8 different species united in common purpose Zira stood on the bridge of the lead vessel, the Solarian cruiser Lightbringer, beside its commander Thala, a tall, crystalline being whose body sparkled with internal light. The Lightbringer had been chosen to lead the assault on the throne world for its advanced stealth capabilities. The Solarians, traditionally neutral in galactic politics, had committed their most advanced vessels to the Alliance, a testament to how seriously they viewed the Dravex threat. Our exit from hyperspace will place us behind the third moon of the throne world. Thala explained, her voice a melodic chime. We should be able to approach undetected until we activate the disruption device. Zira nodded, checking the device one final time. Human ingenuity combined with Lumarian science had created something neither species could have developed alone. The device would emit a precisely calibrated energy wave that would temporarily disable Dravex shields and weapons by interfering with their power distribution systems. But it had a limited range and would only work for approximately 15 minutes, enough time for a decisive strike, but with no margin for error. The Alliance fleet is in position at Earth, reported the communications officer. The Dravex armada has been detected approaching the Sol system. They remain unaware of our position. Excellent, Thala acknowledged. Prepare for hyperspace exit. All ships maintain emission control. The fleet dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, hidden behind the large, barren moon that orbited the Dravex throne world. From this position, they could observe the planet's defenses without being detected. Sensors show 23 Dravex warships in orbit around the planet, announced the sensor officer. 3 more than intelligence predicted. Thala turned to Zira. Will this affect our plan? Zira considered the tactical display. The disruption device should still be effective, but we will need to adjust our targeting priorities. The device has limited range, so we must concentrate our initial attack on the largest concentration of ships. Tactical displays updated as the fleet prepared for battle. The Dravex throne world hung in space before them, a massive planet with a toxic atmosphere and 3 rings of orbital platforms. These platforms house the ruling elite of the Dravex Empire, including the Emperor himself, who never set foot on planetary surfaces, considering them beneath his dignity. Alliance ships moved into predetermined positions, still hidden by the moon and the Solarian stealth technology. The moment of attack drew near. On the Lightbringer, final preparations were made. Zira connected the disruption device to the ship's power systems. The human engineers had designed it to amplify its effect by channeling energy through the Solarian crystals that powered the vessel, creating a cascading wave that would spread throughout the target area. All ships report ready, Thala announced. The Dravex remain unaware of our presence. Their attention is focused on Earth. She turned to Zira. Activate the device. Captain Zira initiated the sequence. The device hummed as it charged drawing power from the ship. A holographic display showed the energy building pulsing through the crystalline matrices of the Solarian vessel. Energy readings climbed steadily, approaching the activation threshold. The display flashed green. Device ready for deployment, Zira reported. Thala nodded. On my mark. All ships prepare to break cover and engage targets. Deployment. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Mark. Zira pressed the activation control. The disruption device released its energy wave, spreading outward from the Lightbringer in an expanding sphere of blue-white light. The wave passed through the Alliance ships harmlessly, thanks to specially designed shields, but when it reached the Dravex vessels, the effect was immediate and dramatic. Their lights flickered, shields collapsed, and weapon systems went offline. Now Thala ordered all ships attack. The Alliance fleet surged, forward from behind, the moon weapons blazing. The Dravex, caught completely by surprise, had no time to react before the first volley struck. Unshielded hulls ruptured under concentrated fire. 3 Dravex warships exploded in the opening seconds of the battle. The Alliance ships pressed their advantage, focusing on the largest Dravex vessels first. Each species contributed their unique combat capabilities. Voltar ships, with their superior maneuverability, harassed the Dravex from multiple angles. Mazari vessels provided targeting data through their advanced sensors. Human ships led direct assaults with their powerful kinetic weapons. And the Solarians, with their energy weapons, struck with surgical precision, but the Dravex were not defenseless even without their shields and main weapons. Secondary systems remained operational, and they responded with surprising discipline. Smaller fighter craft poured from the larger vessels, swarming toward the Alliance ships' fighter squadrons. "Incoming," warned the tactical officer. "Hundreds of them. The disruption device affects only their capital ships." Zira reminded them. The fighters operate on different power systems. Thala issued new orders. "Deploy countermeasures. All escort vessels engage. Fighters maintain focus on primary targets." The disruption effect will not last long. The battle intensified as the Alliance fleet pushed toward the central orbital platform, where intelligence indicated the Emperor resided. Dravex fighters swarmed around them like angry insects, but specialized Alliance interceptors moved to engage. Them 8 minutes until the disruption effect ends, Zira warned, monitoring the device. The energy wave was already beginning to dissipate. "We need to reach the central platform before their systems reset," Thala stated. "Increase speed. All ships focus. Fire on clearing a path." The Alliance fleet formed a wedge formation, punching through the disorganized Dravex defenses. The central platform loomed ahead, a massive structure of metal and crystalline materials that housed the Emperor and the Dravex. High Command, suddenly alarms blared across the bridge. "Sensors detect power fluctuations in the Dravex vessels," reported the sensor officer. "They're attempting to reset their systems manually." The Dravex were adapting faster than anticipated. Zira adjusted the disruption device, trying to maintain the interference, but the power requirements were straining. "The Lightbringer's systems, 4 Dravex cruisers, have restored partial shields," announced the tactical officer. "They are moving to block our approach." To the central platform, Thala made a quick decision. "Divide the fleet. Strike Group 1 continue toward the central platform. Strike Groups 2 and 3 engage the recovering cruisers. We must reach the Emperor before their defenses fully restore." The Alliance fleet split as ordered. The Lightbringer led Strike Group 1, continuing toward the central platform, while the other groups engaged the recovering Dravex vessels. The battle grew more chaotic as some Dravex ships regained partial functionality. 5 minutes until full disruption failure. Zira reported, "The device was never designed for sustained use and was beginning to overheat. We need a new approach." Thala observed, "The central platform is too heavily defended, even with their systems compromised." Zira studied the tactical display, noticing something unusual about the platform's power distribution. There, she pointed. The platform has its own independent power grid separated from the main Dravex network. If we could overload it, Thala understood immediately. Recalibrate the disruption device. Target the platform's power distribution hub. A focused pulse might overload their systems. Zira worked quickly, adjusting the device parameters. It would be their only chance before the device burned out completely. There, she announced new targeting parameters set. "But we'll need to get closer. Much closer." Thala issued new orders to the fleet. "Create a diversion. Draw their attention away from us. The Lightbringer will approach the platform. Directly. Alliance vessels move to comply, launching a series of coordinated attacks against the outer defenses of the platform." The diversion worked. The Dravex defenders focused their attention on the more obvious threats, allowing the Lightbringer to slip closer to the platform using its stealth technology. "We are within range," Zira announced as they approached a massive power relay on the underside of the platform. Initiating targeted pulse. She activated the device again, this time focusing its entire output into a narrow beam directed at the platform's power hub. The disruption wave struck the hub, creating a cascade of energy fluctuations throughout the platform. Lights flickered, systems failed, and defensive weapons went offline. "The platform is vulnerable," Thala announced. Deploying boarding teams from the Lightbringer and 2 other vessels specially equipped assault shuttles launched, carrying mixed teams of Alliance Special Forces. Their mission to locate and capture or eliminate the Dravex Emperor Zira. Watched the tactical display as the boarding teams penetrated the platform. The disruption device had finally overheated, becoming inoperable, but it had served its purpose. The platform defenses remained offline as the assault teams made their way through its corridors. Meanwhile, the battle outside continued to rage. The remaining Dravex warships had begun to recover their systems and were mounting a more coordinated defense. But the Alliance fleet maintained its position, protecting the boarding. Operation time passed in tense silence on the Lightbringer bridge as they monitored the boarding team's progress through the platform. The teams encountered resistance from Dravex guards, but continued to advance toward the central chamber where the Emperor was believed to be. Suddenly, the communications officer turned to Thala. "Commander, we are receiving a priority transmission from Earth." The holographic display shifted, showing Admiral Lauren Scott of the human fleet. Her expression was grim. "We have engaged the Dravex Armada," she reported. "They realized our deception too late but have committed to battle. Casualties are heavy on both sides. We can hold them, but not indefinitely. What is your status?" "The boarding teams have penetrated the central platform," Thala responded. "We await confirmation of the primary objective." Scott nodded. "Good luck. We will continue to hold the line here." Scott out as the transmission ended. A new alert sounded. "Boarding Team Alpha reports they have reached the central chamber," announced the communications officer. "They have encountered heavy resistance. All available ships provide support fire to the platform." Thala ordered, "Target external defense systems only. We must not risk hitting our own forces' alliance." Ships moved closer to the platform, providing precision strikes against external weapon emplacements and communication arrays, isolating the central chamber from reinforcements. Then came the message they had been waiting for. "Central chamber secured," reported the leader of the boarding team, a human special forces commander named Melissa Bradley. "The Emperor has been captured." "Repeat." "We have the Emperor." A cheer erupted across the bridge, even from the normally reserved Solarians. Thala raised a crystalline hand for silence. "Excellent, Commander Bradley. Secure the area and prepare for extraction." The next hours passed in controlled chaos. The Alliance fleet maintained its defensive position around the platform as the boarding teams began their withdrawal, with their high-value prisoner Dravex forces fought with increasing desperation. As word spread of the Emperor's capture, Zira worked with the Lightbringer's engineering team to prepare for their escape. Once the boarding teams returned, they would need to break through the remaining Dravex forces and reach hyperspace. Safety would depend on speed and coordination. Finally, the boarding teams returned to their vessels. The Emperor, a massive reptilian being with elaborate cranial ridges and ceremonial armor, was secured aboard the Lightbringer under heavy guard. He hissed threats and promises of retribution that were ignored by his captors. "All boarding teams have returned," Thala announced. "All ships prepare for hyperspace. Jump as." The Alliance fleet prepared to depart. A transmission came through from Admiral Scott. "We have received word of your success," she said. "The Dravex fleet here is already showing signs of confusion. Their attack formation has broken down. We are pressing our advantage." The Alliance fleet accelerated away from the throne world, forming up for the jump to hyperspace. Behind them, the Dravex forces attempted pursuit, but without central coordination, their efforts were disjointed and ineffective. Several ships even fired on each other in the confusion. "The disruption device worked better than we hoped," Zira observed. "Not just on their technology, but on their command structure." Thala nodded. "The Dravex rely too heavily on hierarchy. Without the Emperor, they lack initiative. The fleet made the jump to hyperspace, leaving the chaos of the throne world behind. They had accomplished their primary objective, capturing the Dravex Emperor. The war was not over, but a critical blow had been struck. Upon returning to Horizon Station, Zira found herself hailed as a hero. The disruption device she had helped develop had been key to the mission's success. Commander Foster personally commended her during a ceremony attended by representatives of all Alliance species. The Dravex Empire is in disarray, Foster told her. Their fleet has withdrawn from Earth space, and reports indicate fighting has broken out between rival factions. We have already begun operations to liberate occupied worlds, including Lumaria. Zira felt a surge of emotion at the mention of her homeworld. Is it certain my world will be freed? Foster nodded. We have confirmation from our advance forces. The Dravex garrison on Lumaria has already surrendered with minimal resistance. Many of their ships are attempting to return to their own territories to secure their positions in the power struggle. What will happen to the Emperor? Zira asked. He will be held as a prisoner of war. Foster explained. His capture has created a power vacuum that will keep the Dravex occupied for some time, and we have gained valuable intelligence from the data seized during the raid on the central platform later. Zira stood with Helen Brooks, the human cultural specialist, watching as Alliance ships departed for various missions. Some would liberate occupied worlds, others would establish defensive positions along former Dravex territories. I still cannot believe what your people have accomplished, Zira said. A month ago, I was a refugee. Now my world stands on the verge of liberation. Helen smiled. This is why we formed the Alliance. Each species brings unique strengths. The Voltar, their stealth technology; the Mizari, their sensors; the Solarians, their energy weapons. And humans? Zira asked. What do you bring? Helen considered the question. We bring perspective. I think the ability to see patterns, to coordinate diverse elements, to find unconventional solutions. The Dravex could not understand why anyone would risk themselves for another species. That blindness was their downfall. 2 days later, Zira boarded a vessel bound for Lumaria. She would be among the first to return home to begin the process of rebuilding. As she prepared to depart, Commander Foster came to see her off. This is not goodbye, Foster said. We would like you to serve as Lumarian ambassador to the Alliance. Your people will need representation as we establish a more permanent defensive pact. Zira was surprised by the offer. I am a scientist, not a diplomat. Foster smiled. Sometimes the best diplomats are those who seek truth rather than advantage. Your perspective would be valuable. And she added with a hint of that predatory smile, I think you've learned something about how humans negotiate. Zira found herself returning the smile. Yes, I believe I have. She extended her hand in the human gesture which Foster took. The Dravex thought my people weak because we were peaceful. They never considered that peace requires its own kind of strength, or that it might earn powerful friends. As her ship departed Horizon Station, Zira reflected on how much had changed. Her view of humans had transformed completely. They were indeed dangerous as the stories claimed, but not in the way she'd imagined. Their danger came from their tenacity, their adaptability, and most surprisingly, their compassion. They had risked everything to help a species they barely knew because they believed it was right. The ship entered hyperspace, carrying Zira home to a world she had thought lost forever. Behind them, Earth continued. Its orbit around its yellow star, the Deathworld that had produced the most unexpected allies in the galaxy. Now I'll create Part 4. 1 year after the capture of the Dravex, Emperor Zira stood on the balcony of the newly rebuilt Lumarian Council Chamber, looking out over the capital city. Construction crews worked throughout the cityscape, restoring buildings and infrastructure damaged during the Dravex occupation. The ATA scars of invasion were still visible, but healing progress visible everywhere she looked. As the appointed ambassador to the Alliance of Free Worlds, Zira had divided her time between diplomatic missions and helping rebuild her homeworld. The past year had been challenging but rewarding. The Alliance had kept its promises, liberating not only Lumaria but dozens of other worlds from Dravek's control ambassador. "They are ready for you." A voice called from inside. Zira turned to see her assistant, Nara, a younger Lumarian with pale blue skin. "The human delegation has arrived." "Thank you, Nara," Zira replied, smoothing the formal diplomatic robes she wore. The blue and silver colors represented both Lumaria and the Alliance, a symbol of their new place in the galactic community. Inside the council chamber, representatives from all Alliance species had gathered for the one-year commemoration of what was now called the Liberation War. The chamber had been specially designed to accommodate the varied physiologies of the different species. A testament to the new era of cooperation, Commander Foster, now promoted to Admiral, stood with the human delegation. Her uniform bore new insignia, reflecting her elevated status. When she spotted Zira, she smiled and approached Ambassador Zira. "You look well," she greeted. "The reconstruction appears to be proceeding ahead of schedule." Zira bowed slightly. "With Alliance assistance, yes. Our cities rise again. We have much to be thankful for." Foster nodded, looking around the chamber. "The new council facility is impressive. Your architects have done remarkable work incorporating design elements from all Alliance species. It seemed appropriate." Zira replied. "The old council believed in isolation. It led to our near destruction. The new Lumeria embraces connection." Their conversation was interrupted as the formal ceremony began. The Lumerian High Council entered, led by Elder Mira, one of the few council members to survive the invasion. She raised her hands for silence. "Today we commemorate both tragedy and triumph," she began. "1 year ago our world lay under the shadow of conquest. Today we stand free. The price was high. Many Lumerians gave their lives both in the initial invasion and in the liberation that followed. We honor their sacrifice by building a stronger, more connected Lumaria." She gestured to the Alliance representatives. 1 year ago, we believed ourselves alone in the face of aggression. We were wrong. These allies, these friends came to our aid when we most needed them. The Alliance of Free Worlds has changed the course of galactic history. Elder Mira turned to a covered monument in the center of the chamber. "Today we unveil a memorial, not only to those we lost, but to the partnership that saved us." The covering fell away, revealing a crystalline sculpture that seemed to glow from within. It depicted representatives of all 8 Alliance species standing together. The artistry was exquisite, capturing the essence of each species in perfect detail. At the base, an inscription read, "In unity, strength, and diversity, wisdom. Together, we stand against the darkness." After the ceremony, a reception was held in the adjacent gardens. Zira found herself speaking with Admiral Foster and Helen Brooks, the cultural specialist who had become a good friend over the past year. The Alliance has changed since the war. Helen observed more species have petitioned to join worlds that once feared to stand against the Draveks, now seek membership. Foster nodded. The power balance has shifted. The Dravek civil war continues with no faction able to gain dominance. Their threat is greatly diminished, though we maintain vigilance. "What of the Emperor?" Zira asked, "still in custody?" Foster replied, "He remains a valuable bargaining chip. The more moderate Dravex factions have opened diplomatic channels hoping to negotiate his return." The conversation was interrupted by the arrival of a Voltar representative. The insectoid being clicked its mandibles in, greeting before speaking. "Forgive the interruption, Ambassador Zira, but the Medzeri delegation has requested your presence. They wish to discuss the proposed research exchange." Zira nodded. "I will join them momentarily." "Thank you." As the Voltar departed, Helen smiled. "Your diplomatic skills have developed impressively. For someone who claimed not to be a diplomat, you have adapted." "Well, necessity," Zira replied with a slight smile. The humans had been rubbing off on her. The Lumerians need a strong voice in the Alliance. And I find I enjoy building bridges between cultures. Later that evening, Zira met with a small group of human scientists who had been working on Lumaria helping restore damaged ecosystems. The Draveks had begun mining operations that devastated several important wilderness regions. Dr. Andrea Wallace, the lead environmental scientist, displayed holographic images of a restored forest region. The recovery rate exceeds our projections, she explained. The native flora demonstrates remarkable resilience. Once we removed the Dravex chemical pollutants, natural regeneration accelerated. This is excellent news, Zira said, studying the data. The sacred groves were central to Lumerian culture. Their loss was deeply felt. Dr. Wallace nodded. We observed something interesting. The symbiotic relationship between certain Lumerian plants and soil microorganisms has applications beyond restoration. The process they use to purify soil contaminants could be adapted for use on other worlds, including Earth. Zira was intrigued. This exchange of knowledge benefits both our peoples. The humans had been generous with their technology and expertise, but Zira took pride in knowing the relationship was increasingly reciprocal. Lumerian science, particularly in biological systems, had much to offer. The next day, Zira received an urgent communication from Admiral Foster requesting a private meeting. The Admiral's expression was serious as they met in Zira's office. We have a situation, Foster began. Our intelligence network has detected unusual activity in the far reaches of the Omega sector, beyond known space. What kind of activity? Zira asked. Foster activated a secure holographic display showing sensor readings and coordinates. Something is approaching galactic space. Multiple objects moving in formation. Their energy signatures match nothing in our database. First contact, Zira suggested. Possibly, Foster agreed. Or something else. These objects are large, comparable to capital ships, and moving with purpose. Our long-range scans detect energy outputs that suggest advanced propulsion and weapon systems. Zira studied the data, feeling a chill of apprehension. The objects were indeed massive, and the formation suggested intelligence and coordination. Have you informed the other Alliance members? Not yet, Foster said. We wanted to consult with you first. The trajectory of these objects, if maintained, would bring them first to Lumerian space in approximately 3 months. 3 months. Zira repeated. That gives us time to prepare. At least, what do you suggest? Foster leaned forward. Our first priority is information. We need to know whether these visitors have peaceful intentions. The Alliance is dispatching a joint scientific and military expedition to the edge of the Omega sector to establish contact and assess the situation. I would like you to join this expedition. Zira was surprised. Me? But I am not a deep space explorer. Your experience with first contact situations is valuable, Foster explained. You helped bridge understanding between Lumerians and humans under difficult circumstances. And as an Alliance ambassador, you can speak with authority. When would this expedition depart? Zira asked. 1 week, Foster answered. We are assembling a specialized vessel, the Horizon Explorer, designed specifically for deep space contact missions. It will carry representatives from multiple Alliance species, including humans, Voltar, and Mazari, along with scientific and diplomatic personnel.